Okay, so on this first one, okay, I know it's really weird and this is not a good way to start off the packet, but they made a typo and the correct answer is not even up there. All right, and here's how I automatically knew just by looking that the answer was not up there. What does that negative exponent mean? If it's a negative exponent, well, that means I just need to move that number down on bottom, right? 1 over 15 to the 2/3. A negative exponent does not make your answer negative. It just means I want a positive exponent, so move it down. So that's my answer, and all of these are negative. Okay, so my answer is not there. But let's go ahead and I will show you how the correct answer should have been written. This would be 1 over, what is my index number here? 3. So this should be the cubed root of 15 squared. That 2 right there has to stay with my 15. That's what they should have. Okay? And so for some reason they decided to throw a negative out in front. All right, so is everyone good with that one? Okay, pretty easy. All right, number 2, or the second one. Which expression is another way to write? Okay, we just did this. Whenever I have 4 as my index number, they want me to write this using exponents. Okay, so that's actually like saying 5x to the 3rd to what power? To the 1/4, right? Because anything to the 4th root is to the 1/4. Anything to the cubed root is to the 1/3. Okay, so well, I'm not finished yet because this exponent has to go with everything inside the parentheses. So now that would be 5 to the 1/4, x to the what? 3/4. Okay, so my answer is A. All right, so far so good. All right, the next one. Which expression, what is the simplified expression of, okay? So lots of different ways I can do this. I'm just going to go ahead and take the square root of the top and then the square root of the bottom. What is the square root of 36x to the 8? Okay, that's going to be 6x to what power? To the 4th. Why is it to the 4th? Because I need groups of 2. My index number is 2. If I have 8 x's, I have 4 groups I can take out. Over, what's the square root of 4x to the 6th? 2x to the 3rd. So now I'm going to say 6 divided by 2 is 3. What is x to the 4th over x to the 3rd? X. Now, remember that rule that we had where if I have an even index number, an even power, and I end up with an odd? Okay, but the good thing is this is the only one that just had 3x. Okay, so if I forgot that little rule about absolute values, they probably wouldn't put this as a choice and this one. Okay, so my answer is A. All right. What is the simplified form of this? Now, first I'm going to show you the good teacher way. Okay, so the good math teacher would say we need to FOIL this out. So let's do that first. So 2 square root of 5 times the square root of 5. So that's going to be 2 times, what's the square root of 5 times the square root of 5? Square root of 25, which is 5. Then I'm going to say 2 square root of 5 times negative 1. So that's minus 2 square root of 5. And then I'm going to distribute my 3. 3 square root of 5, that's just plus 3 square root of 5. And then 3 times the negative 1, so that's minus 3. Okay, so now I need to simplify this. 2 times 5, that's going to be 10. And negative 2 square root of 5 plus 3 square root of 5, that's 1 square root of 5 minus 3. And then when I simplify my 10 and my negative 3, that's 7 plus the square root of 5. So which answer is that? It's B. Okay? Now that's the good math teacher. Okay? Now I'm going to show you the bad math teacher. Ready? Now, this can be entered in exactly like it looks on my calculator. Okay, so look, let's do that. Okay, so when I put it in my calculator, I've lost, oh, there it is. So it's parenthesis 2 square root of 5. Whoops. Oh, all right, parenthesis 2 square root of 5. And then I have to make sure and hit that right arrow key to get out from underneath my square root. Plus 3, close my parenthesis, here's my next parenthesis, square root of 5, right parenthesis, minus 1. Now, Sunny or someone already said, okay, it gives me this gross decimal. Okay, and it will. Your calculator is not going to change it back to radical form. But then what can we do? Well, then I'm going to put in my choices. And I want to know which one is 9.23. So choice B, which is what we said, square root of 5 plus 7. So see how it matches up? So if you forget, you won't forget how to FOIL, but if you're not for sure if your answer is right, then plug in your choices and see which one matches up with that decimal form of the question. Okay? All right. Next one. If x and y are positive real numbers, which expression is equivalent to, and it gives us our problem. Now, the only reason they had to put this part in, positive real numbers, I have something to the 1/2 power, which is the same thing as square root. Can I have negatives inside the square root? So that's why they said that. It doesn't affect the problem. It's not going to change anything you do. That's just why they had to say that. So this actually means I'm going to rewrite this. And I'm going to take this 1/2 and give it to everything inside. So here's what I have. 16 to the 1/2. X to what power? What is the x to the 5th raised to the 1/2? When I have a power raised to a power, I multiply the exponents. So x to the 5/2. Y to the what? 8 over 2, which is 4. So then this is not one of my choices. So I have to figure out what 16 to the 1/2 is. Well, anything to the 1/2 power is the square root. So what's the square root of 16? 4. X to the 5/2, y to the 4th. So which one's my answer? D. Now, how are you going to know which problems I can put in my calculator, like the last one, and ones that I can't, like this one? If not necessarily exponents, if I have variables, if I have an x and y in the problem, you can't just put an x and y in your calculator and it simplify for you. Okay, so if you're dealing with just numbers, then you might can use your calculator, but if you have x's and y's, you can't do that. Okay? All right, so let's look at the next one. What is the sum of? So first of all, what does sum mean? Add. So I need to add these together. So I'm going to do the good math teacher first, and then the bad math teacher. All right? So this one is 1 over 3 times, what's the square root of 25? 5. Plus 1 over 2 times, what's the cubed root of 27? 3. So now this turns into 1 over 15 plus 1 over 6. And then could I just put that in my calculator? 1 over 15 plus 1 over 6? Okay, so let's do that. Parenthesis 1 divided by 15 plus parenthesis 1 divided by 6. Now when I put that in, it's going to give me a decimal. Do you remember how to change your decimal answer to a fraction? Math, enter, enter. So my answer is B. Okay? So here's what we could do instead. I could put that entire thing in my calculator. Okay? Now, sometimes I use my fraction button. If you hit alpha y equals, do you guys show your fraction button? If you have an 83, it won't. But sometimes it's nice to have that fraction. Okay? And I'm going to enter it in just like it looks. 1 over 3 times the square root of 25 plus, you have to hit your right arrow key. And then I'm going to hit my other fraction. 1 over 2 times. Now, do you remember how to get your cubed root button? My cubed root button is under math. It's math. And then see number 4? 27. Okay? Math, and then number 4 to get your cubed root. All right, any questions on that one? All right. Next. Which expression is equivalent to? And on this one, you have to be careful because here's what this means. It means 5 minus the square root of 2 times 5 minus the square root of 2 times 5 minus the square root of 2. That's what that means. Okay? Now, is this a calculator problem or no? Yeah. In my problem, I just have numbers. So let's put it in. Okay, so in my calculator, I'm going to start off with parentheses. 5 minus the square root of 2. Whoops. My right arrow key, parenthesis, and then my housetop 3 to get to the third power. So make sure it looks just like that. Housetop is right above your division. Okay, so now I can't get it to look like the answers they have, so I need to make their answers look like mine. So I'm going to put in A to see what matches up. 155 minus 77 times the square root of 2. And just so happens, that one's it. Okay, so far so good? Yeah, that's fine. All right, are we ready for the next one? All right, the area of a square is 2 squared root of 2 plus 3. What is the length of a side of the square? All right, so first of all, I have to know how to find the area of a square. So what is the area of a square? Base times height. But in a square, those are the same thing, right? So could I write it as side squared? That's how I always write the area of a square. Because base times height, they're the same letter, so when I multiply them together, it's that squared. Okay? So now they told me what the area is, so I'm going to plug that in. 2 squared root of 2 plus 3 equals my side squared. They want to know what's the length of the side. Well, if I'm solving for my side, what do I have to do? Get rid of the squared, and how do I do that? Take the square root of it. 2 square root of 2 plus 3 equals s. Or could I raise both sides to the 1/2 power? Is that the same thing? Same thing. So this becomes a calculator problem. I don't want to have to try to simplify it to make it look like that. So I'm going to put this in. Now it's going to look kind of weird because I have a square root under a square root, but that's okay. All right, so in my calculator, I'm going to have square root of 2 and then square root of 2, hit my right arrow key, plus 3. Okay, now I get 2.414. So now I want you to enter in your choices and see which one matches up. On this one, what they would probably do is, since you know these have to be, one of these is the sides, they'd probably have you square this to see which one you get. Okay, when I square this out, I have to pick out which one, like this one, square root of 2 minus 1 times the square root of 2 minus 1. I need to FOIL that out and see which one gives me this. That's really probably the only other way that they expect you to know how to do it. All right, so the answer on that should be B. All right, you ready for the next one? Which expression represents the quotient? So just looking at it, what do you think I'm going to have to do? Divide it, okay, and just kind of simplify. So look, here's what I actually have. 8x to the 6th, z to the 4th. I'm kind of just separating these out. Plus 4x to the 4th, z squared over 4x squared, z. All right, so now I'm going to simplify. I have 8 over 4, which is 2. What is x to the 6th over x squared? X to the 4th. And then I have z to the 4th over z, which is z to the 3rd. So look at my choices. Do I already know which one my answer is going to be? I know it's going to be A. I'll go ahead and finish it. 4 of 4 is 1. X to the 4th over x squared is x squared. Z squared over z is z. Okay, sometimes after you do like the first step, it eliminates all the other answers, and that's a good thing. Okay. All right, which expression represents the quotient? Looking at this problem, what do you think the first thing you're going to do is? We are dividing. What kind of dividing? Besides gross dividing. I could factor. That would give me my answer. Do you remember synthetic division? Okay. Synthetic division is what they want you to do here. Okay, negative 4 goes in my box. I have 1, negative 4, negative 32. Landon, you need to write these down. Bring down my 1. So 1 times negative 4 is negative 4, negative 8, 32, and then I get 0. My last number is my remainder. Since it started off as y squared, this is y minus 8, which is A. Now, Malik also said, well, if I factored this, that will also factor like that. Or if I completely forgot how to do synthetic division or anything, wouldn't it be true that I should be able to multiply this times my answer to get the problem? Yep. So if you forgot how to do synthetic division, oh, do I put a negative 4 or do I put a positive 4? Which one? Because I guarantee if you put a positive 4 here, they're going to have the answer. Okay? So you should be able to multiply this and your answer together to get the original problem. Okay? All right. A rectangular prism has a volume of, and it gives you that equation, or that expression, and a height of 2x plus 1. Which expression represents the area of the base of the prism? So they told you the formula, and then they are giving you numbers to plug into that formula, and then we have to solve. Yep. We're solving for b. So here's what we have. 8x cubed plus 14x squared plus x minus 2 equals b times 2x plus 1. And I have to solve for b. Well, to solve for b, what would I have to do? Okay, and I would get rid of that by dividing. So I'm going to have to divide. So I either have to use long division, or can we use synthetic division on this one? We can, but we kind of had special rules for this one. Good. In my box is -1/2. Now, I have my 8, my 14, my 1, and my -2. I'm bringing down my 8. 8 times -1/2, -4. Add them up, I get 10. 10 times -1/2 is -5. Add it up and I get -4. -4 times -1/2 is 2. Add it up, I get 0. So that's good. I'm supposed to get 0. So it started off as x to the third. What is this going to start off as? Okay, so now look. Why is it that my answer is not there? Because when we had -1/2 here, what did we always have to do to our answer? Divide it by 2. And if you didn't remember that, you can kind of, by reasoning it out, well, this is my answer, but it's multiplied by 2. So which one's my answer? A. Because I need to divide each of these numbers by 2. Okay. See, and whenever you look at something and you think, oh, wow, I'm way off, but then check your answers and compare them. And a lot of times you can probably see what you did wrong. Okay, look at this problem and tell me, can I use synthetic division on this? I cannot, because I have 3 terms over here. So we get to do your favorite, long division. All right, so, no, it's not even that. It's just dividing. Long division, real long division. 3x to the 5th minus 15x to the 4th. Is this a calculator problem? Nope. It would be nice, but it is not. Now, if you don't like dividing and you are just not going to divide, what's the only other option for this problem? No. Remember, I should be able to multiply this times one of my choices to get my problem. That's a lot of multiplying. All right, so here we go. And the good thing is, some of these problems, the longer ones, you can start the problem off, and then it's going to eliminate your answers once you get going. So let's start off, and I know you may have forgotten, but I'm going to start off with x squared. What times x squared will give me 3x to the 5th? 3x to the 3rd. Now, your next step is to multiply that 3x to the 3rd times each of these 3 terms. So 3x to the 3rd times x squared, that's 3x to the 5th. 3x to the 3rd times -5x, that's minus 15x to the 4th. 3x times, or 3x cubed times 2, that's 6x cubed. Now, when we subtract, we have to change the signs on each of these. So this is minus, this is plus, this is negative. Okay, remember, because when we do long division back in 3rd grade, anytime we put this, we have to subtract to get our answer and then bring the next thing down. So to subtract, I have to subtract everything, which means change your signs. So like this is a 0. My x to the fourths are a 0. So the only thing I can bring down now is negative 2x to the third. And now I'm going to bring down my plus 11x squared. And I may need to go ahead and bring down my next one. I don't know. We'll wait and see. So far I can't eliminate anything because they're all 3x cubes. Okay? So let's do our next step. My next step is to say, what times x squared will give me this first number? Negative 2x to the third. Well, what is it? Minus 2x. Okay? So I know that's my next number. Look at my choices. Do I need to finish this? There's only one choice that has 2x as my next number. Has to be A. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish this real quick so you can see what it looks like. Minus 2x to the third plus 10x squared. And I do need to bring down that negative 9x. Because that's minus 4x. So that's x minus 5x, whoops, x squared minus 5x plus 2. And this would give me 1. Okay? Negative plus minus 0. All right, so the good thing is I didn't even have to finish the whole problem. After I did that negative 2x, I knew that was my only other choice. Okay? It may have been just to multiply them, especially when it's your first choice. Now, if it's D, then yeah, that would have been not so bad. Yeah. Okay, we are timing this perfectly. This is the last one because this is the last one I did with my first hour. All right, so which expression is equivalent to? Now here's the deal. You have to be very careful. How come I just can't say, all right, x squared and x squared, those cancel out? How come you can't do that? Because they're being added and subtracted. You can only do that if it's being multiplied. That's like me saying 3 plus 1 over 2 plus 1. Oh, I'm going to cancel out my 1's and my answer is 3 over 2. Well, you can't do that. Okay, now if it's 3 times 1 and 2 times 1, that's not a good example, but I could cancel my 1's, right? Okay, not when you're adding and subtracting. All right, so on this problem, your first thing, factor. Okay, so look at the top. Are my signs the same or different? They are different. One's plus, one's minus. I need factors of 12 that when I subtract them, I get 1. 4 and 3. The 4 will go with the plus because I want a positive x. Okay, on the bottom, are my signs the same or different? They are. They're the same. And they are minus. Factors of 9 that when I add them, I get 6. 3 and 3. So now what happens? Now I can cancel my x minus 3's. And my answer is B. Okay?